What do we do? She gets signing, and I'm waiting for her to bring the sheet back. Oh, okay. I guess.
I didn't know the end of her email address. Here's
Thank
what I
you.
do.
Good morning. It's a few minutes after 10. I'm going to go ahead and call to order the meeting of the License Variance Board meeting. Today is Wednesday, July 14th. I apologize for the confusion. We've got a little bit of an atypical situation with 3C, and the change is the applicant is going to be on the phone with us. So that's what we've been trying to. So just bear with us. So it might be a little clunky getting through 3C, but we should be able to move pretty efficiently after that. My name is Roy Akery. I'm the fire chief here in the city of Smyrna. To my left is Mary Moore. She's the director of the Smyrna Library. To her left is Richard Garland, director of Smyrna Parks and Work. Also present with us in front of Mary and Richard is Tina Monahan with the city clerk's office. So first item on the agenda is 3A. Actually, 3A and 3B are both scheduled to be tabled. So item 3A is a variance V21-053. Do I hear a motion to table 3A?
Motion to table 3A.
Second.
All right, we have a motion to table 3A V21-053 that's been properly seconded. If there's no further discussion, I'll call for the vote. Motion to table passes unanimously. Tina, do you still need a second? Okay. Same thing with item 3B, scheduled to be tabled until the July 28, 2021 L&V board meeting for V21-069. Do I hear a motion to table 3B?
Make a motion to table V21-069.
Second.
We have a motion to table 3B that's been properly seconded. If there's no further discussion, I'll call for the vote. Okay, that motion passes unanimously. All right, so now for the clunky one. 3C. 3C is a public hearing, V21-055, to allow a 6-foot wooden fence in front yard on a corner lot, land lot 339, 3581 South Sherwood Road. Stephen Wood is the applicant. Mr. Wood is with us here on the phone, but I'll call Ms. Caitlin Crow for the background, please.
All right, good morning. It's good to be back at City Hall with the LVB. This is Caitlin Crow, Planner 1 Community Development. So this variance is V21-055 to allow for a 6-foot wooden fence in the front yard on a corner lot. So this particular subject parcel is about 0.55 acres located right on the southeastern corner of the intersection of North Cooper Lake and South Sherwood Road. Section 503A does control the location and height of fences within the zoning code. So in March 2021, the applicant erected this 6-foot wooden privacy fence right along North Cooper Lake Road, right close to the city right-of-way. The applicant is requesting this variance to allow this 6-foot privacy fence to remain at its current distance to provide safety and security from that very busy road intersection. The city engineer has reviewed the site plan and does foresee a slight sight distance issue at the stop sign. However, due to the existing vehicle approaching when flashing sign right there at the intersection, he can support this variance and does not foresee any negative impacts. Community Development does believe that the variance requested is the minimum variance needed and that at times a 4-foot fence in the front yard just doesn't provide enough privacy or security, especially, again, on this very busy intersection. So after reviewing the variance application, staff does support the request and recommends approval with the following 2 conditions. The first is the standard condition. Approval of the requested variance shall be conditioned upon the development of the property and substantial compliance with the site plan submitted with the variance application. And number 2, if any part of the fence falls within the city's right-of-way and the city must work within the area, the fence may be required to be removed at the owner's expense. And with that, I can answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions for staff?
All right, thank you.
Thank you. So, Mr. Wood, we understand that you're here with us virtually. Caitlin Crowe just read into the record the background for your variance application. Do you have any additional information to add?
No, I do not.
Let the record show the applicant said no additional. She also read into record the 2 conditions that I've been briefed that you're aware of. Are you in agreement with both of those conditions?
Yes, I am.
Let the record show the applicant is in agreement with those. All right, any questions for the applicant? So this is a public hearing. If you're here to speak either for or against item 3C, V21-055, I would ask that you would step forward at this time. Okay, seeing no one, I'll entertain a motion for 3C.
Motion to approve V21-055, allow 6-foot wooden fence in front yard on corner lot, land lot 339 at 3581 South Sherwood Road, owner Stephen Wood.
Second.
Motion to approve 3C has been properly seconded. If there's no further discussion, I'll call for the vote. Motion to approve passes. Good day.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Okay, that wasn't too bad. Okay, the next item is item 3D, public hearing V21-056 to allow non-conforming sign within the city of Smyrna right-of-way for Creekwood Forest subdivision entrance. Applicant is Sally Knox. Ms. Caitlin Crowe for the background, please.
All right, Caitlin Crowe, Planner 1 Community Development again. So this variance is V21-056 to allow for a non-conforming sign within the city right-of-way. The proposed sign location is right within the median on Creekwood Trail near the intersection of Creekwood Trail and Atlanta Road. The Creekwood subdivision entrance off of Atlanta Road begins behind those commercial properties and is a pretty abrupt transition from commercial to residential and doesn't currently have any markers showing what the subdivision is. So the applicant, on behalf of the neighborhood residents, is looking to place a 9-square-foot subdivision pole sign 5 feet off the ground within that city right-of-way in that median. The sign will be made of plastic with metal posts for low maintenance to the residents. It'll only have to be maintained every few years. Although pole signs are not allowed within the city, the median does not currently have the width to support a brick-based monument sign for the subdivision. Additionally, there are no existing easements in place to allow for a monument sign on any of the nearby commercial or residential properties. The city engineer has reviewed the proposed location of the sign, and he does not foresee any site distance issues. So after reviewing this application, staff does support the request and recommends approval with the following standard condition. Approval of the requested variance shall be conditioned upon the development of the property in substantial compliance with the site plan and elevations submitted with the variance application. And I can answer any questions.
Any questions for staff?
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Crowe. Is the applicant present? Ms. Knox, if you could please step forward. And if you could, just state your name for the record.
Sally Knox.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So you've just heard Ms. Crowe read into the record, the background with all the details. Do you have anything else that you'd like to add?
I would like a clarification of the condition.
Okay. So that
I
basically.
don't quite understand it.
That basically means, and Caitlin, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, that when it says that you have to build it or install it in substantial compliance with the application, it means that that the rendering that you've already sent, the application process, that you have to build that same product.
Right.
So
Oh,
you had to
okay.
show the rendering.
Okay.
You can't build something that's completely different. So it has to
Right.
be in compliance with what you've said you're going to do.
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay.
Thank you.
And are you in acceptance of that condition?
Yes, I am.
Okay, any questions for the applicant? Thank you, Ms.
Thank
Knox.
you, appreciate
This
it.
is a public hearing. If there's anybody here that'd like to speak either for or against V21-056, I'd ask that you'd step forward at this time. Seeing no one, I'll entertain a motion for 3D.
Make a motion to approve V21-056, allow non-conforming sign within the city right-of-way, Creekwood Forest subdivision entrance, Sally Knox applicant.
Second.
We have a motion to approve 3D that's been properly seconded. If there's no further discussion, I'll call for the vote. Motion to approve passes unanimously. Next item on the agenda is item 3E, V21-057, parking of a commercial vehicle weighing over 10,000 pounds on residential property, Lot 313, 348 Lyndhurst Road. Judy E. Stricker is the applicant. Ms. Crow for the background again.
All right, Caitlin Crow, Planner One Community Development. So this variance is V21-057 to park a commercial vehicle weighing over 10,000 pounds on residential property. So the subject parcel is located on the south side of Lyndhurst Road, right near the intersection of Lyndhurst Road and Manson Avenue. Section 80-3 prohibits parking of commercial vehicles over 10,000 pounds in a residential area. The property has been an ongoing issue for code enforcement. The applicant has been issued several notices of violation and a citation for violating this particular ordinance by code enforcement over the years. More recently, earlier this year in 2021. The proposed vehicle does weigh between 26,000 and 31,000 pounds, which is well above that 10,000 maximum. The applicant has requested variance to permit the continued parking of this tow truck on the subject parcel due to the fact that it is a first responder vehicle, which needs specific response times to meet their needs. So the applicant has been asked to take this vehicle home to try and enable a quicker response time. However, the applicant's need to park a commercial vehicle on residential property is not uncommon to many residents, nor is the hardship unique or extraordinary to this specific site. Although inconvenient, the applicant could find alternative secured locations to park this work vehicle. Community development staff believes strict interpretation of the code does not deprive the applicant reasonable use of their property. An approval of this variance would give precedence to allow for commercial vehicles parked within residential neighborhoods and would negatively impact the residential infrastructure, since residential roads are not built to sustain commercial traffic of this size. We have received both letters of approval and opposition for this particular request. So after reviewing the variance application, staff does recommend denial, and I can answer any questions.
Any questions for staff? Thank you.
Thank you.
Is the applicant present? If you could, please state your name for the record once you get up to the microphone, please.
Philip Howard.
Mr. Howard, so the applicant is Judy E. Stricker.
Yeah, I filled out the paperwork that I would be her representative on
So
the
you're here
application.
to represent the applicant? Okay, go ahead.
And how I'm involved is Eric Stricker, who is Judy's son, lives with her, and he is employed by me,
Right.
Howard's Record Service. First of all, I'd like to take a little exception to the background. The truck weight, I've had both of the trucks weighed, and I mean, while it's still over the 10,000, it's not the 26,000 that we alluded to. It's only 19,000. Not that that makes a huge difference, but there is some consideration there. Also, and I would hope that the chief would agree that towers, especially since early 2000 have been recognized both locally and nationally as first responders, and certainly if not first responders, second responders. And in that spirit, all the police agencies, fire agencies, first responder agencies, including towing and hazmat, have all engaged in training, adoption of policies to try to facilitate quick clearance. Georgia is very involved in that. I've got documentation both from the governor's Office of Highway Safety. There's a Georgia Open Roads Policy, the Federal Highway Administration, and the National Traffic Incident Management Coalition all recognize towers as an integral part of first responders. And again, as I would hope the chief would understand, it's very important for the roads to get cleared in a timely manner. A lot of studies have been done that show that the incidents that occur in the backup can be greatly reduced if the original or the primary incident is cleared quickly. And to facilitate that, you need tow trucks. That's just it. Yes, you got to investigate. Yes, you have injuries, but you've got to clear the scene. And until you clear the scene, the incident is not cleared. So what I'm asking is, and I spoke to when this situation, yes, we've had this situation a long time. I've been in business here in Smyrna for now 50 years. This is not something new to this city. It's not something new to us. Every time I hire a driver who lives in the city and he takes a truck home, sometimes there's an issue. We do not allow the drivers to take towed vehicles to their house. We do not allow them to conduct any sort of business out of their house. They are simply responding from their house to facilitate our contractual agreements with our police agencies so that we can get a driver on the scene in a most expeditious manner and time frame. So usually I actually reached out to Joe Bennett and Mayor Norton and asked them for a solution when this particular driver was getting some warnings. And the solution that we agreed to, and it basically was a handshake at the time, was that it would be fine as long as he parked in the driveway, because he was having, on occasion, he was parking in the street, which I understand that could be not only a weight issue, but a traffic issue. So that was the agreement, and this was reached a few months ago. Again, it was a verbal. So then most recently, there was still an actual citation that came in. It wasn't just a warning. My driver elected to pay the citation, which that was against my recommendation. Then there was a second citation that ensued. This citation was done when the driver drove to his house, parked the truck running to go inside to get a change of clothes and some food so he could go on an out-of-town trip. And within 10 minutes, he was getting a citation with the truck running and him preparing to go out of town. So I thought that was a little unusual. But what I'm asking, and again, when I reached out to the city and I talked to Councilman Welch, their recommendation was to ask for a variance. I don't know if that's the solution. It was recommended to us that we could possibly find a location nearby where you could park the truck. However, that doesn't work for for several reasons actually, but a couple of reasons are my insurance doesn't provide if he doesn't have care, custody, and control of the vehicle. If it's not parked where he has that, then my insurance wouldn't even cover my truck if something happened to it. There are no suitable locations close enough where they would be secure, where the truck would be secure, where he could respond in a reasonable time. Again, every minute is crucial when you're talking about responding to an incident, a traffic incident. And again, Chief, I know you work these accidents routinely, or your folks do. Excuse me. So what I'm asking is, and I'll Councilman Wells if I need to, but what I'm asking is this committee to, or you guys to consider that we are unique. This is a unique situation in that we have first responder status recognized. Even the mayor and the city manager agreed that we were considered first responders in their eyes, and that we have that status. This is not something that everyone in the neighborhood or even others in the neighborhood would share. And due to our contractual agreements with local police agencies, which we have 2 currently, and that we are required to respond in a quick manner, that you provide us some avenue where this driver can park in his driveway. The truck, like I say, it weighs like 19,000 pounds, the heaviest one of the 2 that he might drive home. Georgia Power trucks, charter cable trucks, all of these, even the UPS and the FedEx trucks will weigh as much as this truck. Okay, so they're routinely in these neighborhoods. I do not see where this truck is going to adversely affect the integrity of the roadway, the paving, or anything like that. As long as this driver is able to park it in his driveway and not impede any flow of traffic. I'm just looking for a solution. That's all I'm looking for. This is not it. You know, I had asked originally for a memorandum of understanding, something that would allow us this special circumstance. And we're not the only company in the city that has this issue. There's another record service in this city that has employees that live in the city that routinely drive trucks home. So again, I'm not asking for an exception to the point to where I would be the only one allowed, but I don't have a problem putting some sort of stipulations on it to where I would have to demonstrate my police contractual obligations, or the need somehow, you know, whatever you may require there.
Sure. Well, I mean, just so you know, because you've referenced me several times, I do completely appreciate and agree with the first responder status for towers, just to put that out there. But you also, just to kind of give you a perspective of the authority of this board, you know, we don't have the same authority that the elected officials have, and that's you know, we shouldn't, you know, right? So the elected officials have a little bit more leeway. This board has contemplated this very exact same type of variance request in the past numerous times and has denied those requests. It's coming to us with a staff recommendation for denial for the reasons stated, and you know, there's only so much we can do now. I don't control what I mean, I have a vote, but I don't control what the motion is. But should your request today be denied, if that happens, then understand that you also have an appeal right. You can appeal that decision directly to the mayor and council, and they would have, again, as stated, a little bit more authority for the gray areas than we do. Okay?
Right.
Okay, so, and also please understand from a city staff perspective, which all of us here are staff, none of us are elected officials, that our job is to not only try to find a fair solution in a request for a variance, which is why we have a variance request process in this board, but also and primarily to make sure that should that variance request be approved, that it doesn't create a hardship for the rest of the citizens, right? And there is an arguable hardship, in my opinion, to the rest of the people that live in that neighborhood. Not only that, but plus to the infrastructure, at least for the long term. So I appreciate your comments, and we definitely appreciate everything that you and your staff do. Just understand there's only so much that we as staff can do. And should this be denied today, then you can appeal that to the council and make that appeal directly to them.
Right.
Okay?
All right.
Anybody have any questions for the applicant?
I've got a two-part question. Sure. One, where would you park the vehicle if you're not allowed to park it here? And have you determined how that impacts your response time if you're not able to park it here?
The nearest secure facility that I would have to this address would be my office on Ventura Place. And it would take my driver 8 to 10 minutes at best with no traffic to get from this address to my office in order to get a truck. That would be best case scenario. And being able to, my contracts are 15 and 20 minutes to arrive at the scene, and that would greatly inhibit our ability to meet that time constraint.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
This is a public hearing. If there's anybody here that would either like to speak for or against V21-058, I would ask that you would step forward at this time. Yes, sir, please step forward. And if you would, when you get to the microphone, state your name for the record. Good morning.
My name is Joe Plunkett, but I go by a nickname of Rick, so I appreciate that.
Okay.
I live at 3814 Cloudland Drive in the Bennett Woods subdivision. I'm here today with my wife, and I brought a couple of neighbors, Mildred Samples and Michelle Taylor with me. But we're strongly opposed to this variance to park this vehicle at 348 Lyndhurst. Well, obviously, and I think we just got it confirmed that the vehicle actually belongs to Howard's Record, not to Miss Stricker or anyone that actually resides there. And generally, if you get to it, it was brought out in the opening remarks that right now there are 4 non-commercial vehicles parked in this driveway. 2 of them I don't believe have been moved in years, and also a motorcycle. And then usually there's a car on the street too. So that if you put this truck in the driveway, it automatically means at least 2 vehicles are going to have to be parked on the street. I went by Howard's Record location last Friday just to look. The truck was there. There's plenty of room there. It's approximately 2 miles from 348 Lyndhurst to the Ventura Place Drive. So to me, I know that I understand the first responder type thing, but I think that in 5 to 10 minutes to get to the wrecker would be acceptable and be a convenient place to put it. Commercial vehicles parked in a neighborhood are unsightly and would to the neighborhood, and we're concerned about the appearance and believe the values of our homes would be negatively affected by granting the variance. So we respectfully ask that you deny this variance and help us keep Smyrna beautiful and clean. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else here that would like to speak either for or against? Yes, ma'am. Same thing. If you could, please state your name for the record.
My name is Terry Pasquarelli, and I also live in Bennett Woods. And my experience has been the same as Mr. Plunkett's. The 5 years that I've lived there and walk regularly past that house, there are the 4 vehicles in there, and I regularly, when I do see that vehicle, it is on the street, and I believe it's a public safety issue as well. So I'm opposed to it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Could state your name for the record, please.
Good morning. My name is Mark Wilson. I live directly across the street from the Strickers, and I wanted to put my support behind allowing Eric to park his vehicle in the driveway. It's been on the road for many years, and I think that's an improvement all the way around, and I think it's satisfactory. I have no problems with that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Paula Rice, and I live catty-corner behind the applicant. I would just like to say that not only are there 4 vehicles parked there, there are normally at least two motorcycles that are also parked there. Aside from the fact that the vehicle has been parked on the street for the last 2 or 3 years, it also is parked on the wrong side of the street. It would be very, very difficult for a fire truck to pull from Manson Avenue onto Lyndhurst to even get onto Lyndhurst Drive, as long as this vehicle is even allowed to park on the street, which it should not be anyway. But it is a very unsightly vehicle to be parked in a neighborhood.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. And sir, did you want to come up? Okay. State your name, please.
Yes. Good morning. My name is Victor Fambro. My wife Kathy and I live on Lyndhurst. We're one house over and across the street from these people. I grew up in Smyrna during the 60s and 70s. When I attended Wills High School in the 70s, Bennett Woods was the place to live in Smyrna. And I'm pleased to say it's still one of the most desirable neighborhoods and subdivisions here. Bennett Woods is a fairly quiet neighborhood, except for July 4th. It's pretty loud. And the man who this building is named after contributes to that. It's a good thing. We enjoy it. It continues to thrive, and I'm happy to say we're going through a transition where young people are choosing to move here as many of the original owners move away. Most of these young people move here with lots of children who again fill the streets with their parents, grandparents, aunts, and uncles, as was the case in the 60s and 70s. Bennett Woods is full of walkers and bicyclists. As you know, this area is zoned for single-family homes with no commercial or retail businesses within its boundaries. I strongly object to this request for a variance to begin parking a commercial tow truck on my street at a house where there's already 5 vehicles, I looked at it this morning, of which 2 are inoperable and 1 already parked on the street. Regardless of the size of the tow truck, be it the 6-wheeled vehicle or the gigantic 14-wheeled truck capable of towing a tractor trailer, which is often there. In fact, it is usually the one there only on the weekends. Where are these trucks during the week? They have no business clogging up this residential street. They make it a hazard for people walking, riding a bike, or driving. And it's just a plain old eyesore. When I'm drinking coffee out on my front porch on Saturday or Sunday, that's what I see. I do not know if Howard's has a limit on their parking space or not. However, if this is the case, then there are many viable options for parking throughout Smyrna. And in fact, leaving Bennett Woods, you can't go across the bridge. You better not go across my bridge in one of these trucks. So you have to come back out to South Cobb Drive. Surely to goodness, somebody can put a fence around a parking lot out there. And so that would not slow down this first responders' time. And if it's an insurance problem, sorry, just going to have to increase your insurance. So using my neighborhood to park their company-owned fleet on my street should not be an option for their commercial operations. Approving this request will only open up the door for whatever is the next commercial encroachment request and could potentially cause home values and property taxes to decline. Thank you for your consideration.
Okay, thank you. We want to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to speak that wants to. So is there anybody else? Okay. Are you here to speak either for or against V21-057, commercial vehicle property? Okay.
It had to do with the variance notice I saw in my neighborhood. I just wanted to inquire as to what it concerned and what the...
Okay, well, right now, we're hearing variance request that contemplates the parking of a commercial vehicle weighing over 10,000 pounds on Lyndhurst Road. Okay. All right, so if there's nobody else, is there any other questions or discussion from the board? I'll entertain a motion for 3E.
Motion to deny V21-057, parking of commercial vehicle weighing over 10,000 pounds on residential property lot 313, 348 Lyndhurst Road, Judy E. Stricker.
Second.
We have a motion to deny 3E that's been properly seconded. If there's no further discussion, I'll call for the vote. That motion to deny passes unanimously. Again, any decision by this board is appealable to the mayor and council. Yes, sir. The appeal has to be within 10 days to the city clerk's office. All right, next item on the agenda is item 3F, which is V21-058. So again, Ms. Crow for the background. And also, I understand for the applicant, Bradley Craig Anderson, I understand that you have three separate variance requests. Ms. Crow's going to read in the background the sufficient information for all three. Okay, so go ahead.
All right, excellent. Caitlin Crow, Planner 1, Community Development. So as you mentioned, I will go ahead and read all three, but you will vote on each of them individually. So the first variance is V21-058 to reduce the side setback from 12 feet to 7 feet for a detached garage. The second variance is V21-059 to increase the accessory building height from 15 feet to 18.8 feet. And the third and final variance for this property is V21-060 to increase the accessory building size from 25% to 41%. So the subject parcel is 0.71 acres located on the east side of Pretty Branch Drive within the Forest Hills subdivision. The maximum accessory structure size and height is required based on Section 501 of the zoning code, whereas the 12-foot setback is associated with Section 801 of the zoning code. So the applicant is proposing to build a 1,651 square foot detached two-car garage at the rear of the property. The proposed garage will have 2 levels. The first floor will be the garage in which to park the vehicles, and the second will be an unfinished attic space strictly used for storage. An interior staircase will lead to that second floor, so it'll be essentially a walk-up attic. The garage will have a mixed facade of brick, hardy plank, and board and batten, which will be matching the current exterior of the home. And then to access this new structure, the applicant will be using the existing driveway off of Pretty Branch, but extending it 3.5 feet roughly to reach the front of the garage. Due to the distance from the roadway and the gradual slope of the property in the rear, this structure will have limited visibility from the roadway. The existing 2-story home is a little over 4,000 square feet, which means that the proposed garage exceeds the allowable accessory structure size by 16%. Although the footprint of the structure is 976 square feet, the area calculations are almost doubled since it is 2 stories. This means that if there were no storage space above, the building size variance would not be required. The applicant has proposed to increase the accessory structure height as well, from 15 feet to 18.8 feet, to match the roof line of the primary building a little bit more consistently. This will also allow the applicant to have that unfinished space for storage. Due to the size and composition of the accessory structure, the increased height will allow it to blend a little bit more seamlessly with the existing building and decrease any jarring visual deterrents. So after reviewing the variance application, staff does support all 3 requests and recommends approval with the following 4 conditions. So the first condition is the standard condition. Approval is conditioned upon substantial compliance with the site plan and elevations submitted with the variance application. Number 2, gutters and downspouts will be installed to divert stormwater away from any adjacent properties. Number 3, the proposed garage shall not be rented or occupied for gain. And number 4, these conditions shall run in perpetuity with the property and as such are also applicable to any future owner. And I can answer any questions.
Any questions for staff at this time?
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Crow. Is the applicant Bradley Craig Anderson present? If you could please step forward. State your name for the record.
Bradley Craig Anderson.
Good morning.
Morning.
You just heard pretty detailed background about your project and
Yes,
your 3 separate requests. Do you have any additional information to add?
I do not. I have spoken with some neighbors and Mr. Gould, and have heard some concerns about the downspouts and agreed to definitely divert the stormwater away from, you know, any adjacent neighbors. You know, we live on a hill and have our own stormwater issues and try to mitigate them as best as possible. And I definitely understand that concern and want to, you know, make sure.
So that would address one of the conditions, and you heard Ms. Crowe read into record all of the conditions. Are you familiar with all of them?
I am, yes, sir.
And
Got
in
the email
agreement with
yesterday.
all of those?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any questions for staff or the applicant? Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
This is a public hearing. If there's anybody here that'd like to speak either for or against V21-058, I would ask that you'd step forward at this time. Okay, if you wait for just a second. You come up to the microphone and state your name for the record, please.
Derek Conti. I'm a Smyrna resident for 20 years.
Okay.
And I don't know these people here, and I don't want to interfere with their plans, but I have a rearward neighbor who put up such a structure. And when I got a notification of the variance, I immediately went over to their house and I asked who I thought was the lead construction guy to at least post a stake with a flag to show how high the peak will be.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm a little higher than they are, and I have a beautiful view of the sunset.
Mm-hmm.
And I bought the house 19 years ago. So the owner staked a stake with a flag, and it was just about at the top of my 6-foot fence, so it didn't interfere. But when they finally finished the construction, it was a good 8 to 10 feet higher. And it's a very cubicle-shaped thing, a carriage house, basically.
Are you talking about this
Not
project?
this piece.
Or some other project?
Another property, because
Okay.
I just want to inform you of the impact that it had on me.
Okay.
Because it's really been bothering me. And it looks like a Monopoly hotel in my backyard now.
Okay.
And I approached the gentleman man to man, and I said, listen, maybe we could do something with the color or something like that, at least in the rearward side facing me. He put up a shed that's 2 feet from the fence that is also in my view. And he said he would consider it after he talked to his wife, and he never contacted me again, and they painted it white. And so I felt that it was enough that I had already asked him to just work with me on this, and I did complain to him that it is not what was told to me. So I noticed that these things could change. He did admit to me, yeah, it's higher than we thought it was going to be, and you know, I'm not the type of person who's litigious, and I want good neighbors, and I want to be a good neighbor to them. So I haven't raised the issue again. And now, as far as the general aesthetic goes, he has a lovely ranch, and they did beautiful work on it. But now that he's posted this blocky carriage house with a 2-car garage, I mean, for his sake, I feel bad, because it spoils the entire aesthetic from the street. So that's really all I have to say, and I don't mean to injure you in any way, all right? But this is what happened to me, all right? So that's all I wanted to say about this. I was really here for something else, and I'll wait. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody here that would like to speak either for or against these specific variance requests? Good morning. If you could state your name, please.
My name is Steve Davis.
Good morning.
Live at 3365 Pretty Branch for 44 years. So I've been a long-term resident here of Smyrna. And not really speaking against it, but more of a clarification and request for an adjustment. I am an engineer and also a professor. And when I looked at the plans of it, I was brought into this at the last minute. I was in New York last weekend visiting my granddaughter. And I took a look at the plans, and I know there's been a lot of conversation that Craig and Carly have had with adjacent neighbors regarding a lot of the drainage issues. Those are not specific to this particular property. They're more specific to the property that was built behind them.
Mm-hmm.
You guys are aware of that large neighborhood and the deforestation there, and some fundamental civil engineering mistakes that were made in the drainage structures there caused that. Adjacent neighbor has had a lot of issues. I know you guys are aware of that. It's in the record regarding this particular request. So I took a look at the actual plot of the location of the building, and architecturally the building is going to be very pretty. I mean, you can tell that, so your read-in is actually correct. In looking at the location of it, with a 7-foot sideline setback. I looked at it and I said, as an engineer, I would consider just a slight adjustment in the location of the building to come back 3 feet, over 3 feet. Now, when you look at that, it basically lines up the building architecturally with the street view. And that slight adjustment in the location, if it should be considered, would allow us a couple of things. One, it would provide a better setback from the rear of the property, and it would give a 10-foot setback to the sideline. Well, that sits at the R15 spec, and actually should be totally acceptable at that point. So when you look at that, it actually makes sense. The second thing would be, and I'm glad to hear Craig indicate that he's talking about removing the water, because I know that's been a real big issue for Cheryl. She's had to deal with that for a number of years. And a simple solution for that is to drain the gutters into what's called a French drain. That wouldn't be that long to get it down to the drainage swale to drain it out to the street. Should that occur, basically you're taking all the issues away. You know, the sideline issue then doesn't come nearly as tight. The drainage issue goes away. And so I just wanted to offer that as an alternative. I've already spoken with Craig and Carly about it for them to consider it. I ask for you guys just to take a look at that and just re-look at the location. If that, I think, were granted, I don't think there would be any significant issue with the neighborhood at all. It's a beautiful home, and I think this will be a good addition to it to be there. I looked at the other options too, because I know those were spoken about, putting it on the back side of the house. Architecturally, that's not going to work. Additionally, in order to make the turn, when he has a truck very much like mine, which is a long vehicle, and you could not, it's too short coupled to be able to do that. So if that was held out there, that would not be something that should be actually considered. So I think the slight adjustment of the building back and over should be sufficient.
Okay.
That's all I've got.
So just a couple of points in that. Thank you for your comments. But so the city can only contemplate what the property owner proposes.
I am aware.
Right.
That's why I discussed it
Yeah.
with Craig.
So these various requests respond by the actual applicant, and it's up to the property owner to request, this is where I want to put it, and all those types of things. And I will also point out that this request initially spawned only one condition, and because of the type of thought process that you're talking about, conversations with the applicant, hearing concerns from the neighbors, those other 3 additional conditions have been added to attempt to address all that. And I'll say to anyone here that what we refer to as the standard condition is you have to build it in substantial compliance with how you said you were going to in the application. That's not just something that is just a sentence on an application or a permit somewhere that's never followed up on. There are inspections throughout construction, at the end of construction, and we do hold people. You can't say, I'm going to build a 10-foot tall structure and then build a 20-foot tall. That's not allowed. So, and that's really not towards any comment that you made, but really just for the sake of the room. The city does definitely follow up and ensure that the projects are built as they were approved to be built.
So in summary, and thanks for that clarification, I am in commercial construction, so I understand it quite well. You are correct. Your committee is correct about the height. That is one I will say, as also I've got a degree in architecture, matching the roof peak line is critical when you do something like this. Otherwise, it's not going to look right from an architectural standpoint. That is correct. That should be granted. The drainage piece, absolutely, that's one you guys have already addressed. The sideline would be the only one that would be possibly adjusted. I am aware of how the zoning works, so that's something that Craig and Carly would have to adjust there on their drawing to make that submission. That's up to them. Just wanted to make that point, but that's it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else here that would like to speak either for or against either 05859 or 60? Okay, any other discussion or questions for the applicant or for staff? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion for 3F V21-058 just for the side setback.
Make a motion to approve V21-058, reduce side setback from 12 feet to 7 feet for a detached garage, Lot 556, 3393 Pretty Branch Drive, Bradley Craig Anderson applicant.
Second.
Motion to approve 3F has been properly seconded. If there's no further discussion, I'll call for the vote. Motion passes unanimously. The next item, 3G, is the same subject property, the second of three variance requests, V21-059, to increase accessory building height from 15 to 18.8, land lot 556-3393 Pretty Branch Drive for Bradley Craig Anderson is the applicant. Ms. Crowe, do you have any additional to add?
I do not know.
And Mr. Anderson, do you have any additional to add? Same conditions apply to all three of these, okay? Any questions for the applicant or for staff? This is a public hearing. If there's anybody that would like to speak for or against V21-059, I would ask that you'd step forward at this time. Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion for 3G.
Motion to approve V21-059, increase accessory building height from 15 feet to 18.8 feet, lot 556, 3393, Pretty Branch Drive, Bradley Craig Anderson applicant.
Second.
Motion to approve 3G has been properly seconded. If there's no further discussion, I'll call for the vote. 3G passes unanimously. Next item on the agenda, same subject property, last variance for this one. Item 3H, V21-060, to increase accessory building size from 25 to 41%, lot 556-339 Pretty Branch Drive, Bradley Craig Anderson, with the same four conditions as previously read into record. Ms. Crowe, any additional?
No, not at this time.
Mr. Anderson, any additional information? Thank you. Any comments or questions? This is a public hearing. If there's anybody here that'd like to speak either for or against V21-060, I would ask that you'd step forward at this time. Seeing no one, I'll entertain a motion for 3H.
Make a motion to approve V21-060, increase accessory building size from 25% to 41%, lot 556-3393 Pretty Branch Drive, Bradley Craig Anderson applicant.
Second.
Motion to approve has been properly seconded. If there's no further discussion, I'll call for the vote. Motion passes unanimously. Next item on the agenda is item 3I, public hearing V21-061, to allow encroachment into the 75-foot impervious setback for a deck addition. Lot 382-3554 South Sherwood Road. Janaea and Billy Joe Lagoska. I probably didn't get that right. I apologize. Ms. Crowe, the background, please.
All right, Caitlin Crowe, Planner 1, Community Development. So this variance is V21-061 to allow encroachment into the 75-foot impervious setback for a deck addition. The subject parcel is a 0.26 acre lot located on the north side of South Sherwood Road. A stream runs at the rear edge of the property and does continue south. And the stream buffers are controlled by Chapter 46 of the Code of Ordinances. So the applicant is proposing to add a roughly 390 square foot front porch and deck in the rear of the property. When the Sherwood Park subdivision was platted back in 2013, the plat failed to reflect the 75-foot impervious setback, which was imposed on this property as well as the adjacent properties. Since the porch and deck are well within that 75-foot impervious, as is a small part of the home, it does require a variance to extend it another 15 feet. Currently, the rear yard, again, is encumbered by the state's 25-foot stream buffer, the city's 50-foot undisturbed stream buffer, and the 75-foot impervious setback. And again, small portion of the existing home is also within that 75-foot impervious setback. So to offset this encroachment to allow for a more usable backyard, the applicant has proposed to install 2 downspouts on the property that will be 15 feet underground with perforated pipe. The city engineer has reviewed this plan and supports their proposed mitigation method. Community development believes that the hardship is not self-created since the lot of record and existing home are already impacted by that 75-foot impervious setback. So after reviewing the variance application, staff does support the request and recommends approval with the following standard condition. Approval of the requested variance shall be conditioned upon the development of the property in substantial compliance with the site plan and elevations submitted with the variance application. And I can answer any questions.
All right, so just for clarity for the record, it's already existing non-compliant, right?
The existing house is correct.
Yeah. And any potential, because I'm looking at the site plan now, and a portion of this is going to be an uncovered deck, so impervious, my assumption. And then the other roughly half, it looks like, because it says porch, I'm assuming it's going to have a roof, a covered roof, and that's what those downspouts are going to catch and mitigate any.
Correct, and we actually do, whether it's covered or uncovered, both of them are considered impervious
Oh, they are?
surfaces. Yes, so the
Okay.
downspouts, as you can see on the site plan in front of you, the downspouts will address both the uncovered porch and the enclosed deck, but it will address both of them since they're both considered impervious.
Okay. Any other questions for staff?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Crowe. Is the applicant present? Hello? If you could please state your name, and I apologize if I mispronounced your name in the beginning.
That's okay. I'm Janina Lagaska.
Okay, good morning. So you just heard Ms. Crowe read into background the details with your variance request. Do you have anything else to add?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for the applicant? This is a public hearing. If there's anybody here that'd like to speak either for or against V21-061, I'd ask that you'd step forward at this time. Seeing no one, I'll entertain a motion for 3I.
Motion to approve V21-061, allow encroachment into the 75-foot impervious setback for a deck addition, Lot 382 at 3554 South Shorewood Road, Janina and Billy Joe Lagaska, applicant.
Second.
The motion to approve 3I that's been properly seconded. If there's no further discussion, I'll call for the vote. Motion to approve passes unanimously. Next item on the agenda is item 3J, V21-062, allow encroachment in 75-foot impervious setback, Lot 381, 685 Smyrna Hill Drive, Wilshire Senior LLP, it looks like. Ms. Crowe, the background.
All right, Caitlin Crowe, Planner 1 Community Development. So this variance is V21-062, again, to allow for encroachment into the 75-foot impervious setback, just like the previous variance. So this subject parcel is 2.61 acres, located on the north side of Smyrna Hill Drive. So a stream does run through the eastern side of the property and continues south. And again, the stream buffers are controlled by Chapter 46 of the Code of Ordinances. So this subject property was actually rezoned back in 2019, which was case Z19-013, for a 65-unit senior living apartment building. The site plan at the time did not reflect any impervious encroachments into this impervious setback. However, after further analysis of the project, as plan review was starting, the applicant deemed the original site plan infeasible and required some modifications that would now impact that 75-foot impervious setback. The modifications were largely for parking purposes, since the topography of the site created steep grade changes that inhibited a standard parking lot for its residents. The new proposed site plan does show about almost 3,000 square feet of the property impacted by the impervious setback, which does include 9 parking spaces, concrete curb, underground stormwater, and a retaining wall. However, none of the encroachments will impact the 25-foot stream buffer nor the city's 50-foot undisturbed stream buffer. In order to mitigate the encroachment, the applicant is proposing a similar area, almost 3,000 square feet, towards the rear of the property that will be left largely undisturbed with very minimal grading and tree planting, but will have no impervious surfaces. They will also be providing pervious pavers in the affected 9 parking spaces. The city engineer has reviewed the proposed method of mitigation and is also supportive of this method. So after reviewing the variance application, staff does support the request and recommends approval with the following 2 conditions. The first is that standard condition. Approval of the requested variance shall be conditioned upon the development of the property in substantial compliance with the site plan and elevations submitted with the variance application. And number 2 is the applicant shall provide a pervious paver detail to the city engineer for approval prior to the issuance of a land disturbance permit. And I can answer any questions.
Okay. So we're looking at the site plan, the mitigation plan that, as you stated, has been reviewed and by the city engineer, and it has support of the city engineer.
Correct.
And just for clarification, you said, so basically, they're needing to add these 9 spaces. And all 9 of those spaces will be impervious pavers?
Correct. That's what they've indicated on the plan.
Right. And they don't need these spaces for minimal, to meet the minimum number of parking spaces, right?
No, they do not.
It's just what's going to work better for the residents and the property.
Correct, yeah. Since it is a senior living community, they are trying to make it as accessible as possible.
Yeah. Okay. Any questions for staff?
Right, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Crowe. Is the applicant or the applicant's representative present? Good morning.
Good morning.
Could you state your name for the record, please?
Sure. Edric Harris, representing Wilshire Senior 1, LP.
Okay, so you, Ms. Crowe just read into background all the details about the project, and she mentioned the two conditions. Do you have any additional information to add to what Ms. Crowe said?
No additional information to add, just to thank you for the opportunity to be here before you this morning, and we support the conditions and looking forward to moving
So
forward.
you're
to senior
familiar with
development.
both conditions?
We are.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
This is a public hearing. If there's anybody here that would like to speak either for or against V21-062, I would ask that you would step forward at this time. Seeing no one, I'll entertain a motion for 3J.
Make a motion to approve V21-062, allow encroachment into the 75-foot impervious setback, Lot 381, 685 Smyrna Hill Drive, Wilshire Senior 1 LP.
Second.
Have a motion to approve that's been properly seconded. If there's no further discussion, I'll call for a vote. Motion to approve passes unanimously. Next item on the agenda. All right, so it looks like we've got another, for Sprouts Farmers Market, we've got about 4 separate variants. The first one's V21-063 to allow additional wall sign for Lot 848, 2530 Cumberland Boulevard, Sprouts Farmers Market. And for the Sprouts folks, just like before with the other one, Ms. Crowe's going to read the background that would cover all of the various requests, and then we'll call you guys up. Okay, Ms. Crowe.
All right, fantastic, thank you. Caitlin Crowe, Planner 1, Community Development. So as you mentioned, there are 4 different variances for this. Again, I'll read them all, and then you'll vote individually. So the first variance is V21-063 to allow for an additional wall sign. V21-064 is the second variance to increase the letter height from 3 feet to 4.5 feet for a wall sign. And the last 2 we've combined since it's for the same variance to increase the letter height from 3 feet to 3.5 feet for 2 of the wall signs. So the subject parcel is 19.53 acres located on the west side of Cobb Parkway, just east of Hargrove Road, and is zoned general commercial. So the city's signage is controlled by Chapter 82 of the Code of Ordinances. So the applicant is proposing to add an additional 118 square foot wall sign to the new Sprouts Farmers Market location, which is replacing the previous Cost Plus World Market. Based on the current sign ordinance, the applicant is allowed 2 wall signs, 1 per public road frontage, with a maximum letter height of 3 feet. The new location will already have the allotted 2 wall signs along the front of the building and then as well facing Hargrove Road. And the third proposed wall sign will face north towards Cobb Parkway. However, the front of the building is perpendicular to Cobb Parkway and faces the shopping center parking lot. So due to this unique building orientation, the main thoroughfare of Cobb Parkway really has very little sign visibility to advertise the new grocery store. So Community Development believes the variance requested for the additional wall sign is the minimum variance needed to properly identify the proposed grocery store from the adjacent public roadway, of Cobb Parkway, as well as within the shopping center. So the applicant is also requesting several variances, the last three, to increase the letter height, to allow, again, from 3 feet to 3.5, as well as 4.5 feet, depending on the sign. Other tenants in the subject shopping center have similar letter height restrictions on their wall signs, which again limits it to 3 feet in height for the letters. Community Development does not believe any site visibility issues are apparent for the subject property that are not resolved with the additional wall sign on that wall. There are no unique or extraordinary circumstances applying to the property that would create any visibility issues. And to date, no variances have been granted for the increase of wall sign letter height. Therefore, approval would set a negative precedence for the city. So after reviewing the variance application, staff does support adding the additional wall sign, which again is V21-063, and recommends denial for the letter height requests, which is V21-064 through 066. And I can answer any questions.
All right, so just for the record, the adjoining commercial properties, retail properties have the same restrictions, right, with the letter height?
Correct. The most recent sign permit that we've issued was for TJ Maxx within the same shopping center. All of their letters met the requirements and were underneath the 3 feet requirement.
Okay. Any questions for now for staff? Okay, thank you, Ms. Crowe. So who's gonna talk for Sprouts? All right, if you want to come up and state your name.
Sure.
Before you start, I'll say, glad you guys are doing this. There's a lot of people excited to have that Sprouts as an addition over there. So go ahead, sir, if you would state
Good
your
deal.
name.
We'll let John come up here and talk about that in a little bit.
Okay.
I'm Nelson Pixler. I am from Allen Industries, a sign company, branding company.
Okay.
So I guess kind of want to walk you guys through how we do this process and how we looked at some of the things and the considerations that we took. Aesthetically, we want to make sure that it looked good with the building on all sides. Proportionately, we gave you both a look of the 3 feet letters and then also the other size letters. So you can take a look at that. Current Sprouts branding, consistency with the brand. There are 16 Sprouts in the metro area. If we went down to 3 foot on our entrances, those would be the smallest letters in that area. So something to consider. Visibility from all different areas there. It is a unique building. There are trees in the way. It does not have great visibility. We also looked at the square footage. We don't particularly like the code square footage, but we are adhering to that square footage. So we'll concede on that. Comparison to other stores in the plaza. It looks like the newer stores that went in are adhering to that 3 foot code. The other ones are not. If you look at your packets that we provided, they may be older stores.
Talking about the Ulta, PetSmart, Michaels,
That is
Ross?
correct.
Yeah.
Those would be a lot larger than what we're actually proposing. And that's what, yeah, all those. Okay, and then we also looked at matching what was on the building before at the World Market. So we're actually decreasing the first letter. So it was World Market before the W, where we went from 5 foot down to 3.5, 5 foot to 4.5, 4 foot to 3.5. So very reasonable in that stance. So that kind of gives you the idea of what we're looking at here. John, do you want to come up and say just kind of a little bit, and I can kind of follow up?
Just real quick, though,
Yeah.
for the sign, I'm sorry, what was your first name again?
Nelson.
Nelson, I apologize. So you represent Allen Industries, right?
Correct.
Have you looked at the existing Sprouts in the city of Smyrna and compared? I just wonder, out of curiosity, either staff or like.
They're larger
Okay.
than what we're actually proposing today.
Okay. And sir, did you want to speak?
I'm John York. I'm from Sprouts Farmers Market. I live in Phoenix, Arizona. I flew over yesterday. It took me about 5 hours to get here. Happy to be here. Love your beautiful state and your green trees. It matches our logo with being green, which represents fresh and organic and, healthy. Just want to start out by reading our passion statement because I think it resonates with your people here in Smyrna and in Georgia in general with what we're trying to achieve as a small grocery store. And that is, we believe healthy living is a journey and every meal is a choice. We love to inspire, educate, and empower every person to eat healthier and live a better life. Now, as mentioned earlier, this particular site, being a Cost Plus World Market existing building that we're trying to turn into a Sprouts, has a unique orientation to the street. The main entry faces the parking field and the other retailers within. The intersection itself has some landscaping that partially blocks the view of our signage, and also the main entry point, which is why we'd like to have that third sign, as did Cost Plus World Market. There's a lot of people use that entry point to get into the center, and rather than just seeing the backside of our building where the truck dock is, we'd like to have a sign as a first impression that where we're located. So we are a farmer's market. We're all about trying to draw the customer in. We're still relatively new within the past 5 years, I would say, to Georgia. We started in the southwest part of the country. We're only 380 stores strong, but we do have, as Nelson mentioned, this will be store number 16, I believe, here in Georgia. So we're excited to be here. I love seeing Georgia on TV when I watch the Masters. It's beautiful to be here and see everything in bloom. It's a great part of the country, and we're happy to be here. I just think it's a little bit of a hardship for us if we're not able to have large enough signage for people to see and those little vantage points that they have off of the road, given the orientation of the building. And would like for those signs to be a little bit larger. They do comply with the square footage code, which are smaller than our standard prototypical signs, as you mentioned, in other parts of Georgia. We just want people to be able to find us, right, and then enjoy the benefits of a healthy living lifestyle. So with that said, I'd ask that we could get these signs a little bit larger. I know they're smaller than what Cost Plus World Market had, much smaller, and they're smaller than our prototypical and what we propose. To go to 3-foot letters would be very, very small and hard to read from the street. So I appreciate your time.
Thank you, sir. You said you flew in from Phoenix?
Phoenix, Arizona. Yeah.
Well, at least it might be a little cooler here.
It is a little cooler, even with your humidity.
You're welcome to stay and enjoy the more moderate temperature.
I'll stay as long as I can.
We'll welcome
as long
you
as my
here.
wife will allow it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So we get just a few questions for Ms. Crow, if you could, please. So just for the clarification and for the record, so I'm assuming the applicant has provided these, right?
Correct,
Right.
yeah. I'm
So
assuming we dropped them off, yeah.
So these stores, and for the record, I'm referring to a single page with 4 photos of storefronts, Ulta, PetSmart, Michaels, and Ross. Are those in the same shopping center?
They are. So they're directly across from the parking lot.
Okay.
And so those ones, because they had mentioned that they could be older, and that's most likely the case.
Probably what happened when they did the initial commercial rezoning and stuff like that, probably. It was
Correct,
probably part of all that.
Because the shopping center was there before it was annexed into the city as well, so I'm not sure the time period, if it was part of the annexation or not, but our sign code did change in 2005.
Yeah.
So, for example, the Cost Plus that was there before, they predated this new ordinance. So thus, because they originally had actually applied for variances, it was found that it was not needed at that time. But again, the code did change in 2005, which is what we are currently working off of.
But they're taking over the old cost plus world market.
That is correct.
And these photos that depict the old sign versus, what they're proposing, those are accurate, right? So the cost plus world market with the actual two words world and market were higher than 3 feet.
That is correct.
Okay. Any questions for staff? Did that cover everything? Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, this is a public hearing. Again, for clarification, we're hearing 3K right now, which is to allow additional wall sign, Lot 484, 2530 Cumberland Boulevard for Sprouts Market. This is a public hearing. If there's anybody here that'd like to speak either for or against that 3K, I would ask that you'd step forward at this time. Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve V21-063, allow additional wall sign, Lot 848 at 2530 Cumberland Boulevard, Sprouts Farmers Market applicant.
Second.
Motion to approve V21-063 has been properly seconded. If there's no further discussion, I'll call for the vote. That motion passes unanimously. Next item on the agenda is 3L, same subject property, Sprouts Farmers Market, 2530 Cumberland Boulevard. This request would be to increase letter height from 3 to 4.5 feet for a wall sign. Ms. Crowe, any additional information?
Not at this time.
And to the applicants, any additional information? Okay, yes, sir.
I failed to mention one thing that you might consider. When my boss and the CEO come out for grand opening and are with your local leaders, I just, want to be seen as treated fairly in our building versus all of the other existing. I understand they're grandfathered in, but, just trying to look for that compromise. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for staff or the applicant? This is a public hearing. If there's anybody here that'd like to speak for or against V21-064, I would ask that you'd step forward at this time. Seeing no one, I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve V21-064, increase letter height from 3 feet to 4.5 feet for a wall sign, Lot 848, 2530 Cumberland Boulevard, Sprouts Farmers Market.
Second.
We have a motion to approve 3L V21-064. If there's no further discussion, I'll call for the vote. Motion passes unanimously. Next item on the agenda is 3M, same subject property, Sprouts Farmers Market, 2530 Cumberland Boulevard. V21-065 and 66 combined together because they're the same thing, but this one is for increased letter height from 3 to 3.5 for the wall sign. If there's anybody here that'd like to speak for or against this variance request, I'd ask that you step forward at this time. Seeing no one, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve V21-065 and 066, increased letter height from 3 feet to 3.5 feet for wall sign, Lot 848, 2530 Cumberland Boulevard, Sprout Farmers Market applicant.
Second.
We have a motion to approve V21-065 and 066. It's been properly seconded. If there's no further discussion, I'll call for the vote. That motion passes unanimously. Good luck. Sure. Next item on the agenda, the last two are for the same subject property. The next one is 3N. VR21-067 to reduce the side setback from 10 to 6.6 feet for an addition, Lot 449, 2755 Sanford Road. Sonia Williams is the applicant. Ms. Crowe, the background, please.
All right, Caitlin Crowe, Planner 1, Community Development. Thank you for hanging in there. These are the last two. Again, read them together, and then you will vote on them separately. So the first variance is V21-067 to reduce the side setback from 10 feet to 6.6 feet for an addition in the rear. And V21-068 is to reduce the front setback from 35 feet to 28.33 feet for the addition of a front porch. The subject parcel is 0.41 acres. It is a double frontage lot located right in between Sanford Road and Sanford Place, across from Cobb Park. So Section 801 does require a side setback of 10 feet and a front setback of 35 feet for the R15 zoning district. The applicant is completely renovating the existing one-story house by adding the 932 square foot addition and deck to the rear, 132 square foot front porch in the front, as well as remodeling the current interior. The existing home was constructed in 1952, which was prior to the adoption of the zoning ordinance, and does have an existing non-conforming front and side setback already. The existing home is currently encroaching into the northern side setback by roughly 2 feet and into the front setback by almost 11 feet. Due to the existing home's non-conforming location and being oriented parallel to the road, the addition will encroach in the side setback because the side property line is not perpendicular to the street, so it automatically has the geometry to create this issue. The applicant has also reconfigured the porch to be wider but not deeper than the current porch, so the encroachment will only be 7 feet rather than 11. So it's actually helping out the current situation. So due to the existing location of that existing home on the subject property, the proposed addition will minimize disturbance to the surrounding neighbors and to the subject property. The hardship is not self-imposed, as the original home was built again prior to the current zoning ordinance. So after reviewing the variance application, staff does support both requests and recommends approval with the following standard condition. Approval of the requested variance shall be conditioned upon the development of the property and substantial compliance with the site plan and elevations submitted with the variance application. And with that, I can answer any questions.
So again, this one's existing non-compliant.
Correct, exactly.
Both, yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. Any questions for staff?
All right, thank you.
Is the applicant present? Ms. Williams? Hello, just like everybody else, if you could just state your name, please.
Williams.
I'm sorry, in the microphone.
Sonia Williams.
Okay, good morning.
Good
So you
morning.
just heard Ms. Crowe read into the record the details of your two requests.
Yes.
And we have to vote on them separately. Do you have anything else to add to what she said?
No, I do not.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant? Thank you. This is a public hearing. If you're here to speak either for or against V21-067, I'd ask that you'd step forward at this time. Okay, you heard Ms. Crowe read into the record the standard condition.
Yes.
Are you familiar with that condition?
I am.
And do you agree with it?
I do.
Okay, thank you for that. Seeing no one for public input, I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve V21-067, reduce the side setback from 10 feet to 6.6 feet for an addition, Lot 449, 2755 Sanford Road, Sonia Williams.
Second.
Motion to approve 3N that's been properly seconded. If there's no further discussion, I'll call for the vote. Motion to approve passes unanimously. Next item on the agenda is 3O, same subject property, 2755 Sanford Road. This one is to reduce front setback from 35 to 28.33. Ms. Crowe, any additional?
No, not at this time.
And Ms. Williams, any additional
No, not at
information?
this time.
Okay. The same one standard condition applies to this one as well?
Yes.
Okay. This is a public hearing. If there's anybody here that'd like to speak either for or against V21-068, I'd ask that you'd step forward at this time. Seeing no one, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve V21-068, reduce the front setback from 35 feet to 28.33 feet for a front porch, Lot 449 at 2755 Sanford Road, Sonia Williams applicant.
Second.
A motion to approve 3O that's been properly seconded. If there's no further discussion, I'll call for the vote. Motion passes unanimously. Good luck with your project.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Last item on the agenda is item 4A, which is the approval of the April 14th, 2021 License Variance Board meeting minutes. Do I hear a motion to approve those minutes?
Make a motion to approve MIN 2021-47, approval of the April 14, 2021 License and Variance Board meeting minutes.
We have a motion approved, and this has been properly seconded. If there's no further, I'll call for the vote. Motion passes unanimously. I'll adjourn this July 14th meeting at 11:28. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I know I came late, I had to work, and there was I hope I can ask a question and maybe just get an update on what happened today. Right at the corner of Creekwood Trail and Atlanta Road, there's a variance notice there, and it's in between the dojo, the karate studio, and the dry cleaner. So I don't know what that applies to. Oh. So the sign is going to be right there on that little median where the plantings were done. What is it going to say? Oh, okay. Nice. Okay, thank you. That's all I came for. It was educational. Thank you very much. Oh, by the way, I'm Dr. Conti. I have chiropractic specialists on Concord Road. You probably know it well. All right, I'll see you. Thank you.